David Patterson, Director of Parallel Computing Laboratory at the University of California, Berkeley. Let's welcome him up.
Thanks.
This appears to be working.
All right. I'm happy to be here. This takes next 10 minutes to tell you a story. The story has some deadly fractions. It's got trying to understand the difference between opportunity and obligations, and then maybe a new way to push the frontier of computing in the 21st century versus the last century. I'm as part of the AMP Lab, a project that started 6 months ago at UC Berkeley. There's about 10 faculty involved. I'm one of them. So what this lab is tackling is what's commonly known in the press as big data problem. So big data is massive. Facebook gets 400 terabytes of pictures a day that it has to process. Google does 25 petabytes of information routinely. It's already big and it's growing. It's growing because there's a lot more devices, like John showed in his talk. There's a lot more people, particularly half of the people on this planet have a cell phone account to start with. We're the biggest growth area that's in the third world. And the storage devices themselves are growing at incredibly cheap. It costs 5 cents to store it for the storage cost for a gigabyte. And this data itself is on everything. There's no schemas. It's not curated. It's many different formats. So the data itself is dirty, which makes it difficult. So our kind of definition that we're using in the AMP Lab is this kind of trade-off between time and money. It's that we say you have a big data problem. It's not just that it's big, that the normal use of technology won't let users obtain timely, cost-effective answers of sufficient quality to data-driven questions. And this challenge is why a lot of people are saving all this data in the belief that they'll figure out a way to make it valuable. The approach that we're taking in the AMP Lab is we're going to advance machine learning algorithms. We have my joke is the Michael Jordan of machine learning. His name is Michael Jordan to help lead that effort. We want to produce advanced cloud computing and high-performance computing machines, being able to use thousands of machines to work on this, and crowdsourcing the people. That's the AM and P part of it, and to try and extract value from the big data and increase the cost of maintaining big data. Now, one of the challenges for academic researchers, if you're going to work on big data, is to find big data. Usually, for academics, big data the data is either small and interesting, but it's kind of hard to do a big data research project that fits on a thumb drive, right? Or it's big and boring. Usually, if it's big and interesting, it's proprietary. So one of our challenges was to find something that was big and interesting that could drive a research agenda. And what we found out about was this opportunity with genomics and computing and personalized medicine. So there's an effort that's in the United States called the Cancer Genome Atlas, TCGA. So what they're doing is for the top 20 most widespread cancers, they're taking 500 tumors of each of them and getting the genome plus a normal cell to compare that, and that's 5 petabytes. And our colleague, David Hausler at UC Santa Cruz, is making that available to our research project. So, which is great for us, is we can get a lot of data that's both big and interesting. And now comes some of the, so what can we do with that? As John pointed out, this belief is this is going to help us for personalized medicine. This is from Time magazine a couple of months ago, the leader of the TCGA saying, within a decade, we expect to have personalized medicine that, based on your genome, rather than giving average case diagnoses, what's specifically for you. That's the hope that they'll happen in a decade. Now here's the deadly fractions here. Just how prevalent is cancer. There's a wonderfully written book on this topic that just came out this last year called The Emperor of All Maladies. It actually won the Pulitzer Prize for nonfiction. It's written by a person who's both a medical doctor and a medical researcher and a wonderful writer and who does a good job explaining biology and the history of cancer. So here are these deadly fractions. A quarter of all the deaths in the United States are from cancer. That's 7 million people a year around the world. A third of women in the United States will get cancer sometime in their lifetime. Half of men in the United States will get cancer sometime in their lifetime. And so, as the author says in the book, it's not a question of whether in these industrialized nations your family will be exposed to cancer, it's when. So that's a sobering thing. What is cancer? Cancer is this perversion of a normal cell. Our cells grow and replace themselves. Cancer tries to be immortal, limitless growth. The growth thing that breaks and stop working on the cancer cells. Not only does it grow crazily, it changes itself as it grows to make it a harder target to try and wipe out. And then it does this terrible thing. It starts in one part of your body and then spreads to the rest of your body. That's what doctors say metastasizes. So it's this amazingly challenging disease. What we know now, and really we didn't, surprisingly, if you read this book, we didn't know that that's many years ago, over the last decade or so, that cancer is a genetic disease. It comes about when your body replicates cells. There's just accidental transcription errors that happen, like just an error rate. So this will happen. But also, if you expose yourself to carcinogens, then the error rate is much faster, which can lead to this cancer. So that's why it's happening. And part of the reason it's even a bigger problem in the first world is all these other diseases we've conquered. So what would it take to get to personalized medicine, to customized therapy? And colleagues at UC San Francisco said these 5 steps, and I'll go over these steps. But we want to get we have to get through all 5 steps if we can reach that vision of something, therapy custom to you in case you get a terrible disease. Well, the first thing is this equipment that takes the biological material and turns it into digital information. 4 years ago, it cost $1 million. 4 years ago, it was $1 million to sequence a genome. 2 years ago, it was $10,000, and it's projected next year to be $1,000. So the biological sequencing machine, that part is falling much faster than Moore's Law, and this turning what was clearly a biology problem 5 years ago to a digital binary problem probably by next year. So one of the concerns, and this is from a leading journal, Nature Methods, is that if we don't innovate in data processing, great, we'll have taken down one piece of it, the biological piece, to $1,000. But the data processing could be many times that. So this is something we need to tackle. And that's the thing that we're working on with our colleagues at UC San Francisco, is trying to use high-performance computing, cloud technology, to be able to do this much more effectively than you would today. And a problem that our colleagues at San Francisco, it took more than a day to do on a PC, a multi-core PC, a modern processor. They were able to do in less than an hour on at actually a large-scale high-performance computing system. So that's promising that we can get these prices down. The last 2 steps are right in the middle of what the AMP lab is doing, which is what we want as we get these genomes of cancers there, which nobody knows about because we've never been able to have that information online. Let's make advances in machine learning algorithms, advances in data analytics to see what we find. Is leukemia, blood cancer association with the cancers of the liver or the pancreas? Will the same medicines that work for one work for the other? Nobody knows the answers to that because that information hasn't been available, so we're excited about getting that opportunity. And we have to bring the price down, so we have to get much more efficient. And we're excited about doing new programming frameworks and new storage systems to bring that down. We think that's right in the center of what we work on. Then the next step is what about for each individual of these millions of patients, what's right for them? And we're interested in trying to use something like crowdsourcing to expand beyond what doctors do. Although this seems kind of crazy, we see this happening in other fields. There's a very popular system called Folded, which tries to figure out how proteins fold themselves, and we can find people by playing games who are better than computers. Another example is in astronomy called Galaxy Zoo. They had millions of galaxies classified. It would take them forever to do with computers. They got people to go out and do that for them. They did it in hundreds of months. So there's precedent that we can harness people to help us with really important problems facing society. Maybe they can even help with this. So this is that opportunity occupation. So I gave a talk at this UC Santa Barbara in May, and the talk went well, and then I woke up in the middle of the night, as I want to do, and thought, wow, this means maybe it's computer scientists have as big as opportunities biologists to advance the fight against cancer. Wow, that's pretty compelling. And then I woke up the next day and I said, well, if it's plausible, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, but if it's plausible that computer scientists could advance the fight of cancer that millions of people have, aren't we morally obliged to work on this if it's possible? Then finally, if every family in the world is going to get cancer and you could work on it, that's not compelling to you, there's probably a pretty big industry, right? So we go from average case diagnosis to personalized medicine. Everybody's going to want their genome sequence, and so there's a lot of people and a lot of processing for everyone to be able to do that. And then finally, my last slide is kind of philosophical. How should we be pushing the frontier of computer science? Is it just Thomas Edison didn't give a damn if it couldn't be a product, he didn't want to work on it. Bohr was a physicist. If he couldn't turn it into, he was interested in pushing physics, not products. But Louis Pasteur was interested in doing both. He was trying to solve the problems of the day. He's one of the fathers. He also helped prove germ theory. He's one of the fathers of modern biology. But he came up with the first vaccine for rabies, the first vaccine. So he solved the problems of the day and pushed the state-of-the-art biology. And maybe that's what we're going to be able to do, trying to attack and advance big data by helping a societal need.
Thank you.